All right, guys. So Steve Kerr, the coach of the Golden State Warriors, he was given a pregame press conference, and he really went off, man. I mean, he blew a gasket, and he focused on the shooting in Uvalde, Texas. So let's watch this, and then we'll talk about it as we go here.
I'm not going to talk about basketball. Nothing's happened with our team the last 6 hours. We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left shoot around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher.
You can see he's clearly really emotional about it. He's like, his voice is shaking.
And in the last 10 days,
And by the way, that number ticked up. It's now, I think, 23 people in total who were killed.
Had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California. And now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. There's 50 senators right now who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a background check rule that the House passed a couple of years ago. It's been sitting there for 2 years. And there's a reason they won't vote on it, to hold on to power. So I ask you.
No, the reason they don't want to vote on it is because they don't want to be on the record as against the background check bill. But also, they are totally bought and owned by the NRA. I mean, name a Republican senator, and they've taken at least $1 million from the NRA over their career. So that's what this is really about. This is about corruption. This is about money in politics. Because when you have a situation in the country where about 90% of Americans support a background check bill, and we don't get that passed, well, there are institutional reasons why it's not getting passed. It's because the Senate is not responsive to the will of the people. The Senate is responsive to their donors. Now, in this instance, most of the Democrats are not taking money from the NRA, so they're on the correct side of this. But then we come back to the age-old conversation of, like, there's a handful who are pro-gun, like Joe Manchin, for example. They block progress. And also, the Democrats who are on the right side of this literally have no idea how to fight and are kind of don't care that they're not fighting. You know? Because they'll say, like, oh, yeah, I support this policy, but then in the next breath, they'll go support Henry Cuellar, has an A rating from the NRA. And they picked him over Jessica Cisneros, who's reliably more left with her voting record. So, I mean, Democratic leadership is useless. And they're part of the problem, just in a different way. So that's the reality.
Mitch McConnell, I ask all of you senators who refuse to do anything about the violence in school shootings and supermarket shootings, I ask you, are you going to put your own desire for power ahead of the lives of our children? And
the answer is yes. Of course they are. Because this is I don't even know what number of mass shooting we're on. Shit. I mean, I lost count. Not only have we had multiple mass shootings all the time, we also have a number of, like, elementary school shootings, and it doesn't move the needle at all in Washington, D.C. It just doesn't do it. And look, he's right for calling out Mitch McConnell. That's great. But, like, Biden just gave a speech where he's talking about how, oh, we need to transfer our pain into action. And it's like, bro, you're the president. You're the one who needs to be taking the action. Fuck, just sign a couple executive orders on it and make the Supreme Court slap it down, because at least in the process, while it's going through the litigation, you'll have, maybe a year or two where those gun regulations are implemented. But no.
our elderly and our churchgoers, because that's what it looks like. It's what we do every week. So I'm fed up. I've had enough. We're going to play the game tonight, but I want every person here, every person listening to this, to think about your own child or grandchild or mother or father or sister, brother. How would you feel if this happened to you today? We can't get numb to this. We can't sit here and just read about it and go, well, let's have a moment of silence. Yeah, go Dubs, Come on, Mavs, let's go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go play a basketball game. And 50 senators in Washington are going to hold us hostage. You realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check. 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want.
But the Democrats hold the House and the Senate and the presidency. And at least as of right now, I mean, maybe Schumer, because he has done this recently, he's forced votes on different issues. Maybe he'll force a vote on a background check bill and make the Republicans vote against it. I mean, that would be smart politics, but I mean, really, you got to find a way to get it done and do more than that. And like I said, Biden could just sign a few executive orders on it, and then as it's being, the constitutionality of it is being tested through the court system, you'll at least have a period of a year or two where the regulations are implemented. So that would be better, But you also can't have Democratic leaders support people like Henry Cuellar and Joe Manchin, who are not on board with them on this issue. Because they could say, oh, we support this, we support this, we support this. But then if you are actively propping up Democrats who are against you on that, you don't really fundamentally support it in terms of your actions. So, I mean, I like his rant here, but he's just being a little too partisan by acting like it's just the Republicans. The Republicans are worse because they're all just bought and paid for by the NRA, and totally against the will of the people. Even a lot of their own voters. There's polls that show Republicans are in favor of some what's called common sense gun reforms. But the Democrats are useless. They're just useless. And this happens on every issue. I mean, look what happened with Build Back Better. We had an opportunity to get like universal pre-K and elder care and lower prescription drug prices and, Medicare expansion and all these different things. And we didn't get any of it. None of it. And then it's not like Biden said, okay, well, I'll go at it on my own and sign some executive orders, or we'll propose standalone bills and force Joe Manchin and the Republicans to vote against it. They didn't do anything. They did nothing. And so it's all of Washington is the problem. It's just, a little nuanced and complicated in terms of how the blame gets spread around, but this is a little too, it's just the Republicans. It's not just the Republicans.
Won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
I mean, look, he means well. But then also, let's keep it real, man. The thing he's calling for, the background check bill. I support a universal background check bill. I would go further. I would do a universal background check bill and a one strike and you're out policy. Anything, even a little bit in your background that might indicate that you could be a future shooter, done. You're not getting a gun. It's a wrap. So I definitely support that. I support a permitting system and a licensing system in order to get a weapon. But even if I had exactly the policies that I wanted in place, you're never going to eliminate the mass shootings unless you genuinely ban guns. Ban guns. And beyond that, you'd have to confiscate the ones that are already out there because we already have over 300 million that are out there. And number one, I'm not sure that's constitutional. Number two, I don't think there's an appetite to go that far among the American public. But the American public is on the side of every standard reform you can name. So, universal background checks bill, banning high-capacity magazines, even banning assault weapons, although in some polls that might drop a touch below 50%, but in most polls it's above 50%. So, my point is, even if he got the policy he wanted implemented, we'd still have a bunch of mass shootings. And it's uncomfortable reality, but I have to point it out because it's true. But having said that, yeah, all the basic reforms, I support those as well. And you would put a dent in the number of gun deaths if you do that, for sure. But even if you cut it down 50%, we're still talking about over 15,000 gun deaths every single year, including homicides, suicides, accidents, mass shootings, etc. So, but it is, we just live in a system that is permanently broken. And I support his, rage and his anger here and how he's unsettled by the entire thing and he wants action. But what I would say to Steve Kerr is you do have to, investigate the roots a little bit more, man, because it all comes back to that corruption and that money in politics. And even on the Democratic side, there's a handful who are bought by the NRA and have an A rating from the NRA. And the ones who don't are useless and weak, and they don't really care that much. They're not really all that committed to making the change. So, country in severe decline is all I can say. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.